All right, fellas. So one of the things that I was seeing on social media is this post by a guy. I guess his name is Will Strong. He says the marriage rate for Black women is down from 29 to 27%. At the same time, Black men's marriage rate is up from 34 to 36% and is expected to be 40% by 2027. Black people getting married the least Black people get married the least out of everyone. We cannot build a strong community slash society without a strong nuclear family. My wife and I understand the value of the nuclear family, and so do our three children. We will celebrate our 30th wedding anniversary in 6 days. Now, this was controversial for a couple of reasons. Number one, the wife ain't black. So he's sitting there talking about black women's marriage rates, and he didn't marry a black woman. And so a lot of people were going through and were dragging this dude through the mud, and through the internet streets. And so I'm wondering what y'all think about what he was saying about um, black marriage rates, and how he said black men's marriage rates are up and black women's marriage rates are down. Bobby, what do
Well,
you think?
I mean, first of all, I would think about the numbers because that's just how I think. And I'm like, there's more women in the world than men. So I would expect the men's, numbers to be up a little bit higher. But, I don't know, what this study, I don't know if it was just like 100 men and 100 women, whatever. Um, but it makes sense to me because I've seen a lot of men date many races. I mean, like many ethnical backgrounds and everything. So, and I think that black women do it too, but I think men have a broader range of women that they're attracted to. I think black women kind of feel like they should be with a black man most of the
Why
time.
is that? Why is
I
that?
don't know. I don't know if I think it depends on how you were raised. I think that what you grew up around. I think that just it's just the culture. Like I think there's a bigger frown upon women that marry outside of their race than men that marry outside of their race. That's just
Hmm.
from what I've witnessed in my life. I think that men can marry a Latina and that's more accepted than them marrying a white woman. They can marry an African woman that's more accepted than a white woman, and they have more options. But I feel like if a black
Yeah.
woman dated anyone outside of a African American or African period, that they would be judged, and I think that that makes them not do it as much as men do.
Hmm. So wait, what do you think about that? Why are black men dating outside of their race? Excuse me. Yeah, more than black women. And do you think that that's starting to shift? Because I feel like I'm seeing a lot of black women who are more open to dating non-black men. Um, and I would also say, let me just throw this out there before you answer. In terms of marriages that work, this is a really interesting thing. Statistic that I saw that black women married to white men, their marriages work better than intra or survive more, less likely to get divorced. Better than black men and black women, white men and white women. So black
Yeah,
woman, white man, that couple is going to last a lifetime.
You
I
should
got
let
what
me
you're
answer
saying.
that one.
Now, conversely, black man, white woman is more likely to get divorced than black man, black woman. You follow me? So it's
Yeah, I got
like when we as black men go out and marry white women, it's less likely to work than if we had just married a black woman. But when a black woman goes out and marries a white man, it's more likely to work. Why do you think that is?
you. I think just the times have changed. I think it's more socially accepted to date outside your race nowadays than it was back in the days where it wasn't as accepted. So I feel like people are more accepting of a black guy being with a white woman. I ain't gonna lie, except black women. for the most part. I know black women don't really like to see that as much, but it also, you know, a big part of that is where you were raised at. Kind of like what Bobby said. I feel like if you were raised in a predominantly white area, but you're black, maybe because your parents was more successful, and not saying you cannot be successful and live in a white area, but if your parents are a little bit more successful, have a little bit more money, they live in a certain suburb area, I feel like you're exposed more to other races opposed to being in the hood. I'm just gonna call it what it is. Being in the hood, being around your own race. And I'm not saying just because you and your own, like in the hood, it's got to be black people there. But I'm just saying, like, it's, you know what I'm trying to say. Like, so you guys understand what I'm trying to say, right? So I
Yeah.
feel like your environment, like if you're around predominantly white people, more than likely that's probably who you're gonna date. If you're around more, if you go to college and you predominantly around white people, uh, Arabs, whatever, Asian, you're gonna probably date that. You know what I mean? So I feel like it just depends where you was raised at, and I think society just is more accepting of that nowadays. I mean, we're not living in the times where you couldn't look at a somebody who's the opposite race. I mean, that's my opinion on it.
Yeah. So, Bobby, I hear from a lot of sisters that black men, one of the reasons that they're more open to dating um, men who are not black is because they feel like black men are afraid of commitment, that they don't want to get married and have that lifetime commitment. What do you think about that? And the other thing is, you know, if we're getting our values, most of us are raised by black women. And how is it that black women could be raising a bunch of commitment phobic black men?
Um, I think that has a lot to do with the upbringing of the black man. I think that we kind of like see a lot of things in movies and films, idolizing pimps, players, and being in the streets and selling drugs or whatever. And in a lot of those movies and things that we see on TV, it gets glorified to have like a lot of women. It's glorified to have bodies, and that's one thing that a lot of teenage black boys talk about is like, I was with this girl, I was with that girl, and despite the mother bringing them up, you know what I mean, and them seeing the struggle, if the father's absent from the home, most likely you saw him with another woman or you saw him have another family. So I think that, a lot of things that we see growing up as black men, we see like the glorification of having bodies and having like a lot of women, you know what I mean, or be able to brag about your numbers or things like that. So I see why men don't commit. I mean, I feel like later on in their life they might try to commit because most men, I would say, I don't know for sure, probably like have that craving to be with one woman at some point in their life. But as a young man, you kind of like you're exploring your options, and I think that we're taught to explore our options.
You know, it's interesting that you say that. Wade, I have seen a lot of stuff on the internet. Whenever I see interracial couples, one of the comments that a lot of the white men make is "future single mom." That's like the insult that they have for black men and white women, or white women that date black men. Um, but how do we encourage black men to not be afraid of that commitment, to actually lock it down? And should we be encouraging black men to, I don't want to say exclusively, but to focus more towards black women?
I think we should definitely stay off the internet. Other people's opinions and things like that, because I feel like that can alter your brain on just kind of like how what Bobby said. Like we're kind of raised to, we got our boys, we got our uncles. We talk about how many bodies we got. If we hit that, like that seems like that's always the main goal. But you never really hear anybody saying like, "Hey, I want to marry her," like anything like that. You don't really hear that as much as you hear like, "I want to hit that." But we also hear about women do the same thing. They got a lot of guys too, and they talk about their bodies too. You know what I mean? They go after guys with money and things like that. So it's the same thing on the other side. You know what I mean? Like I think sometimes if we're not, maybe we don't commit because we are scared that they may not be being as loyal and all about us. Because nowadays, like that's why I said stay off the internet, because we just hear about women trying to find guys with money all the time. So we feel like you're not really here for us, then we going, why would we be committed to you 100% if you really here for something else? I mean, that's how I feel about that. What was the second question you asked me? Yes.
I can't exactly remember, but I will say this. It's funny you say that because one thing that I did see while I was on the internet um, is uh, there was this thing where this woman posted a picture of these guys in prison and they were all jacked up, and she was like, "This is why I couldn't be a prison guard." And all these, and they were jacked up and they had tattoos and everything, and kind of looking like Wade. And they were like, all these women were like, "Yes, girl, I couldn't be around that. I would have done this and this and that." And then I heard one dude commented. He was like, "Look, if there any woman that tells you she's trying to get money from dudes is a liar, because they will smash a dude in prison." You know what I'm saying, with nothing. So that I feel like all of that is a fabrication. Broke dudes be running around with as many women, you know what I'm saying? And so you shouldn't have to prioritize paying anything or going, we can go on a walk on our
Yeah,
first date. You know what I'm saying? We can get a cone of
yeah,
ice
yeah,
cream because, if they're willing to, fawn over dudes that are locked up, then they could fawn over a dude with making 50,000 a year.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Well, I
Yeah, no,
mean
I
that
agree.
also
You know.
sounds like it's about people going by looks. I mean, they're going by how a man in prison looks rather than what he
Yeah,
can provide. So I think that, when it comes to good looks, sometimes women and men are vulnerable to that, no matter what the other person has. And I think that that's why we get this thing of like, he unattractive, but he got money. You know what I mean? So it kind of like go hand in hand with that.
yeah. And in prison, they know that they don't have money. They know they don't have nothing, so they just going off straight to physical, just like Bobby says. So I feel like that's all they can really offer them. So yeah, if you in prison, that's all they're going to want you for. But if you out in the streets, yeah,
Hmm.
guys who don't have no money in the streets still getting action too. But I feel like girls, the type of chick that you probably want, they want you to have that bread though.
Yeah. I mean, I, just from what I know, from stories I've heard and some experiences I've had, not many, but some I've heard, mostly heard, chicks don't want to go on no ice cream date. You know what I'm saying? Like they not about to, you know what I'm saying? That makes you look cheap. Makes you look like you don't have money or you don't want to spend the money on somebody. And women that are attractive and feel like they're attractive, some of them aren't, and some of them are. They feel like you should be spending money on them. It's not for a walk in the park and try to get to know you and get a connection with you. It's about the money.
So is that so? If other, like, let's keep it real. If other races are getting married at higher rates than we are, is it because we are focusing on things like money
Yeah.
and things like that?
I
Yeah, I think
I
so.
think that
I
has a
think
little bit to do with it. Like I'm not gonna say that's all the way what it has to do with it, but and just to clarify it, I don't mean like gold digger type stuff. I also feel like women want a man that provides. And how can you provide if you don't have money? If you're not financially stable, if you don't have a plus of income, if you're just getting by and paying your bills every month, if you're waiting for the next check to come, so you could survive every month, you know what I mean, then that's not a provider. And I feel like that.
But if I on a first date, if I'm trying to meet you and have a conversation, and I want to take a walk and get some ice cream or something
That's a
like
good
that,
way.
like
it don't work no
why
more,
y'all
man. It
laughing?
ain't working no
Like
more.
You've been out the game a long
listen,
time,
I've
bro.
been out the game for a
You've been out
while.
the game for a minute, man. But
Yeah, seriously, but I mean, why is that something that um means that I don't have it? You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're my woman, then that's different. But if for a first date, I'm trying to get to know you to see, I'm not trying to take everybody and be everybody's sponsor, but if I get to know you and we have a connection, then yeah, I'll take you to a nice restaurant. Yeah, maybe we'll go on vacation. Maybe I'll pay for the entire vacation, something like that. But and when I was in the dating pool, my wife can tell you when I was out dating, I was a student. I was a graduate student. I had no bread. But what she could see was I was headed to somewhere, I was headed somewhere where, maybe there was going to be at least financial security and stability. And so, I think it's really that couples need to realize you're gonna build together. Now, don't get with some lazy dude who ain't going, get himself together and doesn't have any
Mm.
ambition. But if it's somebody who doesn't have it right now to go on you know, a $400 date, you know what I mean, but is a solid dude, then I think there are
Yeah,
other
I think you're
considerations that need to
100%
be
right. I
thought
just
of.
don't think that some women don't take the time to do that. I don't think they take the time to get to know people. And especially, I don't think social media is helping because they see, you only put on social media what you want to glorify. So if you glorify that you got, 10,000 roses, then some other woman is like, damn, I want 10,000 roses. You know what I mean? Somebody's not going to, glorify getting one rose and one nice date walking on the park with ice cream. That's not that common. It's more common to see, oh, he took me to this restaurant. He took me to, what I mean? He took me to Roof Chris. He took me to the Fogo de Chao. He took me to these places. That's what's being glorified on social media. So social media has a lot to do with it too, because they're being showered with things that cost money.
Yeah, I think you've been out the game too long, Jason. Because nah, for real. Because like they even say like a lot of chicks on social media. Again, we talking about social media. That's why I said let's stay off of it. They say they don't date for potential, so they don't date. Like how you said, I was in school. I didn't have a lot of money. I was cool with going for a walk, ice cream, like, and just like what Bobby said, like nowadays chicks don't want to do that. Like they say the first date sets the tone on how he's going to treat you forever, and I don't think that's true. So that's why they want the $300 like dinner. If you don't, they don't want to go get coffee no more. They don't want to go get ice cream. You got some that do, but it's a small percentage. I think like as Americans, we too cultured. Like I feel like the other cultures, um, like other cultures would be fine with just going to go get like ice cream, going for a walk. But I feel like Americans, like we on social media, so we trying to compare what everybody else doing. Just like how Bobby said, you see a chick that got her dude gave her 1,000 roses. The other chick looking at her dude like, you ain't give me no 1,000 roses. Like where my roses at? So I feel like it's just a comparison thing, like the whole time, and it starts with social media, man. I always say I think social media the devil, man.
Yeah. So you think it's an American thing. You don't think it's a racial thing. Like, so, like, because if it is about, if we are making this idea that black people in particular are not getting married enough, but other races that are also American are getting married, then it's not, you're saying that it's not a race thing, it's a culture thing. So you got to find somebody who's African or somebody who's Caribbean or some sort of immigrant that will have those values.
Yeah, I think it's more. I don't know. I don't know what it is for real. I think it's more on like how you was raised, where you was raised at. Some people, families, you may have grew up in a household where you see marriages don't work. So then you may not even want to get married because you see it don't work. You may not even want to put yourself through that stress. Like, I mean, me personally, like I've seen a lot of family members divorce, breaking up nonstop. It's like, do it even work? You know what I'm saying? Not saying I don't want to get married, but I'm just like, I sit back and watch dudes do things, move in with chicks. 3 months later, they back. You know what I mean? Like divorce, separated. It's like you like, does it work? You know what I mean? Like I see all races like that. Only race I don't see doing that is really the Asian race or in the Indian race. Those are two races I really don't see. I don't really see. I mean, I don't really see that too much.
Well, I'll tell you this: I've seen people of all races when they get married. One person gets sick and the other person's there to take
Yeah.
care of them. And it's I could tell you the people that don't have somebody that's 75, 80, 85 years old and they don't have a spouse and never had a spouse, it's a lonely,
Yeah.
cold world. You know what I'm saying? So I can tell you there's an advantage to getting married. And, I truly do believe in building generational wealth. You know what I'm saying? Like, and community wealth. And a lot of that comes from marriage. But Bobby, I do, before we kind of, get out of this discussion, I wanted to bring up this idea that I had heard, and it actually comes from some books that I've read. So when I gave you that statistic about black women, white men, their relationships working better than other relationships, even than black men, black woman, or white men, white woman. But black men, white women working worse. I heard this idea, and it's an Afrocentric idea, and it can be traced back to a lot of Afrocentric writers, or not even Afrocentric writers, but famous writers. There's one, his name is Frantz Fanon. He wrote a book called Black Skin, White Masks, and he talks about the colonial consciousness. And what this one guy I heard kind of extrapolated from that was this idea that we are all told and socialized to look to white men for leadership, and so therefore a black woman, and this is just an idea, I didn't come up with this, I'm just saying that a black woman will respect the leadership of a white man more than she respects the leadership of a black man, and a white woman will certainly not only not, but the reason black men, black women can work is because even though a black woman may not look at a black man for leadership, because black women have always had to, struggle alongside black men. They've never had to, they never had to be led. They had to be partners. So that can work, because they're partners. But white woman certainly won't respect the leadership of a black man because she sees herself as superior, because they look to white men for leadership, and then when they see a black man, you can fail once, and then they will look at you and be like, you're not even a leader. You're like, I'm superior to you. And so those relationships fail for black men for those reasons. Now, I did not make that up. Let me be clear. Um, but I was hearing somebody kind of say that, and I'm not saying I believe it, but I'm wondering what y'all's thoughts are.
Okay. So I understand that perspective. I think that when you see that this world, most leadership positions are white males, I can see why you would think that white males are more of leaders. I think that black men are um, seen as strong, but they're not always seen as leaders. I think that a lot of companies are owned by white men, and ultimately, if you think about, who's the higher up is predominantly white men, and so I think that that may play a factor in women, black women, feeling safer with white men. And it's all about the environment, like we said before, of where you grew up. I think that some black women are taught to just not associate themselves with white men in that type of way romantically. And I think that, the women that do choose to do that probably feel safe with white men. It's financially or like, business wise or things like
Yeah.
that. And I think that
I mean, they might be all around safer. You know what I'm saying? Like, to be honest, it's not safe for black men
it's
out
not
here.
safe for black men.
You
Yeah,
know what I
that's true.
mean? Even on a base level, so like, I think a black woman can reasonably come to the conclusion that she might be safer and more secure with a white man. I mean, I'm not saying that's the case. I know brothers gonna get really upset
Mm-hmm.
about that, but when you look at the financial, I remember a sister one time telling me, and Wade, I'd be interested to hear what you say
Mhm.
about this, since you like, no fat chicks at the club. Um, I'm
He
joking,
said because
but
he can't get around them.
this one,
That's exactly what he
Hey,
said.
you through. Trying to get to that. It's hard to get to that bar sometimes. I ain't gonna lie to you, man.
says the guy that's 6'4", 240. Yeah, I mean, but um, I remember this one sister, and I was like, "Yo, that's real talk." She was like, "Black men, if you hold black women to a white woman's beauty standard, then I get to hold you to a white man's financial standard." And I was like, "Makes perfect sense to me." You
What
know what I'm
black man
saying?
is
Like,
holding a black
if you're
woman
gonna
to white
hold,
woman standards as far as beauty?
Well, as far as what though?
Yeah, I mean that's got to be
yeah,
that's a
hey, come
different
on, bro.
atmosphere that they growing up in. I don't know that environment. I've never held a black woman.
Nah, I'm saying you
Go ahead.
Yeah,
like, all right. So there are, I know brothers who will date sisters, but they wouldn't date a sister with natural hair. They wouldn't date a sister that's dark skinned. We said dark skinned sisters can't even get in the club. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you know, if black men are gonna get in on that idea that you got to be light skinned, you got to have green eyes, you got to have long hair, and I'll say this: I think that we all have been socialized. This is what white supremacy is. It socializes all of us to think that white is right, or if it's not white, it's close to white. You know what I'm saying? So, we, there's a lot of us who have been like, "Yo, is she fine? Oh, she just light skinned." like, like that literally is a thing. We can't deny it. So, and a lot of us had to mature out of that.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So, to me, given that white supremacy really does exist in our beauty standards, like, I think it's fair for sisters to say, all right, if you're going to hold me to a standard that's impossible for me, then I should be able to hold you to a very strict standard of
Well,
white
the
men's
reason I would disagree
finances,
with that is
which,
because I feel like it's conditioning in a sense. Like we said, if you're conditioned to be attracted to the straight hair wigs, if you're what I mean, or you know black women doing things being super skinny like the white women, or having thin lips and skinny noses, like if you're conditioned to like those things, then that's a little different. I mean, most black women, I don't think they grew up around wealthy black men. Some of them, but not all of them, have grown up around. So I don't think though comparing those two things is the same. I think that we are conditioned to, because you see black women in the hood wearing straight wigs all the time. You know what I mean? Or you see them wearing, you know, white women materials to make themselves look, the makeup, you know what I mean, to make their skin lighter or whatever they may be doing. We're conditioned to see that. So black men might, or black boys might grow up and fall in love with that because that's what they saw. That's what their mom did, or that's what their grandmother did, or that's what their aunt did. You know what I mean? So we're conditioned in that way.
mhm. No, I agree. But I think there are sisters who are kind of rebelling against that and saying, look, you got to uncondition yourself, or else my conditioning
Yeah.
is for money. I was conditioned in a
Right.
capitalist society where money and financial security means a lot. So if you can't maintain me at the standard that was set by the dominant group in America that you've been systematically excluded from. And I think what this woman is saying is that I can never be a white woman. You know what I mean? Or even close to a white woman. If I'm a chocolate sister with, nappy 4C hair, I can't ever be that woman. So it's unfair to try to hold me to that standard. Because for years, our grandmothers and great grandmothers burned the hair out their scalp trying to get straight hair. You know what I'm saying? And people in Jamaica, over there putting all kinds of stuff on their skin trying to get their skin
Yeah.
lighter. So they've done dangerous things to fulfill a standard that they can never
Hmm.
truly fulfill. And what this woman is saying is it's just as difficult. I understand that it's just as difficult for you to reach that financial standard because you're not going to get that job that some mediocre white dude is going to get. So, therefore, for you to understand that I can't reach that standard, you need to understand that you can't reach this standard. And we shouldn't hold, and I think her point is we shouldn't hold each other to those standards because the way she stated it was, you know, if you hold me to a white woman's beauty standard, then I will hold you to a white man's financial standard. So it wasn't like I'm definitely going to do this. It was like, okay, so you see that this is unreachable because of the way society is set up.
Hmm.
You know, we need to stop doing that and appreciating the beauty that we have as black people.
Yeah, that's understandable.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I'm a big proponent. I've been, the funny thing is, I remember saying one time that black women and black men, well, really men, I don't say anything to black women, black men need to get married. And I was excoriated by black women, what I'm saying, for telling black
Right.
men to get married. But all right, everybody go out, like and subscribe so you can get more content like this and so you can get in on our good conversations.